Oh man, such flushed face. So if you're at all familiar with how movie soundtracks work, you ought to feel right at home here. This is a case study in the sort of silhouette tracing that we were talking about earlier. The gestures made by the music seem to index or point to the subject matter of the poem. The marching hunters represented by galloping triple meter motifs. The snap pizzicato figuring the guns firing. The beast's last mournful breath as it dies of its wounds. The verbal and musical texts work like signifying struts. The sonnet alone can't perform what the music does, and neither can the music. A rut we can get in, though, especially with music like The Four Seasons, is to imagine that music's meaning is always describing some kind of story. Robert Savage writes about this problem in his book Hermeneutics and Music Criticism. Blue piano are just some of the things. Savage also draws on Ricoeur, namely his theory of narrative, which can be loosely defined as the representation of human action within time. As self-aware human beings, we experience time cosmologically as a succession of nows, as well as phenomenologically. We are oriented towards time as present and past and future. Narrative allows us to imaginatively configure events, actions, characters, motivations, circumstances in a sort of syntax called emplotment. We re-describe experience into a sort of fiction, a metaphor at a distance from experience itself, but coherent and structured nonetheless. The problem is that music is at a much greater metaphorical distance from reality. Without the sonnet, you'd have no idea what Vivaldi's music was about. The sounds of the music don't themselves conjure the details of a story. Indeed, Savage argues that to reduce music to narrative is a second-order interpretation. While interesting, maybe, you're not actually interpreting the music itself. You're creating your own plot in excess of the music. But don't count music out yet. Savage's argument is that music has the power to re-describe the affective dimensions of our experiences. Music may lack the capacity to represent, like narrative, how human beings are said to know events, action, characters, and circumstances within time, but what music can do that language cannot is exemplify and express how we feel that experience. He says, whereas visual representations are merely indications of these states of character, musical compositions represent states of character themselves. Anger, calm, temperance, and courage, for example, or their opposites. Okay, now that we have some more tools on our tool belt, let's dive into Imogen Heap's song, The Listening Chair, from her album Sparks. Because it's a music video, note how the musical and visual texts support the verbal texts in tracing meaningful shapes. The song shifts several times in style, mood, and meter. Maybe consider how those shifts can be said to re-describe, not so much characters, actions, or circumstances, but the affective dimensions of experience. Okay, here we go.